So Theodore Roosevelt Jr. was born in 1858, October 27th, to a prominent New York family. He was the second oldest of four children, and as a child, he experienced some health issues. He had a very weak heart, and he had asthma and such, and he was encouraged not to exercise. So to counteract, he exercised. He took up weightlifting, he took up boxing, and he took up gymnastics and things like this. And this began the stringent workout routine which he would keep up during his whole life that would keep him in shape. And he became very healthy and fit at this time, and he was very happy with himself. And he got past his illness and his injuries. And so at this time what happened was, like many prominent American families of the time, Roosevelt went on the grand tour with his parents. He went all the way to Europe and Asia and Egypt and Africa. And he came back, and then he attended college in 1876 and decided to become a lawyer. So and in 1876 he went to Harvard for college, and there he met his first wife, Alice, and he fell in love, and he was very happy with her. And then about halfway through law school, he dropped out and decided to become a public servant. And after dropping out of law school, he became the assemblyman for New York, for his area of New York. And he was actually very successful as an assemblyman. In 1881, he became a New York assemblyman. And but then in 1884, tragedy struck. His wife Alice, while giving birth to their first daughter, she died 2 days after she gave birth to his daughter. And then tragedy struck again the same day. Roosevelt's mother died of typhoid. And now Roosevelt, after losing both his mom and his wife, became very grief-stricken and left his career in New York, and he moved to the South Dakota Badlands, where he bought some land, and he became kind of an outdoorsy guy. He bought 1,000 head of cattle and 2 ranches, and he started becoming sort of a rancher. And he was a cowboy. He was kind of like a cowboy. He rode around on his horse and herded his cattle, and he became very outdoorsy. He became the sheriff of his area, and he chased outlaws, he hunted bears, and sort of developed the love of nature that would characterize his environmental policies later. Then he returned in 1886 and ran for mayor of New York, but he lost. But then he met his wife, his second wife, who was the daughter of a prominent New England banking family. And after falling in love and marrying her, he was appointed head of the Civil Service Commission, which is because he successfully campaigned for President Benjamin Harrison. And as part of the Civil Service Commission, he sort of fought more corruption in New York. New York was rife with corruption at this time, in like political machines like Tammany Hall. And then in 1895, he was appointed police commissioner, and he was very, very anti-corruption during this time. He ardently fought it and actually had some lasting effect. But he was removed from this post in 1897. He was appointed Assistant Secretary of the Navy, probably due to a very influential book he wrote about the Navy. And he became Assistant Secretary of the Navy. And after a U.S. warship was blown up in Havana Harbor in Cuba, he told everyone to prepare war with Cuba, and we actually went to war. So then he left his spot as Secretary of the Navy, and he led the first U.S. Volunteer Cavalry Regiment, also called the Rough Riders, in their heroic battle during up San Juan Hill, which is actually Kettle Hill. And he became very, very famous as a war hero during this time. And after the war, he came back and he rode his war fame into the gubernatorial election of 1899, and he became the Republican governor of New York in 1899. And he really started fighting even more corruption in New York during this time, and he had a much bigger effect than he did before. So the political Republican bosses realized that this guy was going too far, he was too progressive, so they decided to end his career, sort of, by making him vice president under President William McKinley. And he didn't want to do this either, but he realized that the Republican nomination convention was rigged, so he had to become vice president. So what happened at this point was McKinley was assassinated. So what happens? Roosevelt becomes president. And this is like the opposite of what the Republican bosses wanted to happen, because Roosevelt's a reformer, and now he's also the president. So after McKinley dies in 1901, or is assassinated, McKinley is killed, Roosevelt goes to the White House, he becomes president, and now he has the entire power of the Oval Office behind his progressive decisions that would characterize his 2 presidencies. And now he really starts making the contributions that he becomes known for. and that he truly becomes a progressive president after his 1902 presidency, and then later his 1908 presidency.